The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And we're here to discuss breaking news from a long time ago. A galaxy far, far away, and a galaxy of Star Wars news. This is our news show. Thanks everyone who has been so warm and receptive to, number one, Jennifer returning to the show here to talk news with us. And then also the new format, news on Tuesdays, questions on Wednesdays, deep dives on Thursdays, and Clone Wars and Star Wars Ranked and all those things. We really appreciate it. You guys being so open to changes and returns. We are going to dive into news before we do all that.
Sorry, you just sounded like a stressed out clerk at like an old time retail store.
Oh, sorry, your shirt didn't fit. We'll get we'll get a chance to catch up here. But as always, I want to remind you today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. A little bit later, as always, we have our ForceCenter recommends an audiobook we think you should try out on us. And that's not all, Joseph.
No, we have another offer as well. Inside Editions is a publisher of a ton of great Star Wars books as well as other pop culture properties. They are offering 35% off across their website if you use this special link, insideeditions.com/discount/FC35. This week, we are continuing to recommend the Insight Editions book, The Mini Book of Lightsabers. It is about laser swords, but it's small and cute. What could go wrong? Again, use the link insideeditions.com/discount/FC35.
It is the Yoda lightsaber of lightsaber books. Small.
Small and deadly and adorable. Yep.
So check that out, like Joseph said. Star Wars adventures, life adventures. What a time, what a time. But we're here to just kind of talk about all that. Jennifer, let's start with you. The people have spoken. They're so happy to have you back, and we're so happy to have you back, of course, as well. But how's your Star Wars adventures going?
They're going. I went to my mom's house yesterday and I found just a bunch of random Star Wars stuff, like an old lightsaber TV remote that no longer works, a Princess Leia cardboard cutout, my Millennium Falcon skirt, like all this stuff. And I don't know what to do with it because I have no place for it. Like, this is why I need like my own little nerd cave where I could display everything, right? But I don't have that.
Ooh,
My husband's like, you're not bringing that, are you? I'm like, no, I guess I'll just stay here for now. But I want to display, but my family's not into it. I don't know what to do.
This has been a long-term discussion that Ken and I have had of like, it would be great to get to the point where like, look, we need to have a studio for ForceCenter, but really what we need is we call it a studio and it's just Star Wars storage for all three of us.
Exactly.
I like the idea of a ForceCenter museum. Like, look, a Landa Millennium Falcon dress or that Death Star dress. I mean, come on, this is like this needs to be on display. Belongs in a museum, as Indiana Jones would say.
Yeah, Jabba the Hutt body pillow. It's massive. And my mom lifted it up, this giant green thing. She's like, do you still want this? I said, absolutely. I don't know where I'm going to put it. So that was my Star Wars adventures. And then did you guys see Oscar Isaac this week on Saturday Night Live?
I did
not.
I
haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
Oh my, I've only seen just some of the sketches. There's this meatball sketch where he plays a meatball and I was crying. I was laughing so hard. He's just, no matter what he's doing, even playing a meatball, he gives 110% commitment. I love that about him.
You truly believed he was a meatball.
A delicious little singing meatball. You have to
great.
Find it. You have to. You guys will both appreciate it so much.
I will. Yeah, I'm one of those SNL fans going back 40 years, but I haven't watched in a couple years for no reason other than it's just not on my life schedule anymore. But I saw some clips, and I think for Oscar, I'll watch again.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to Google Oscar Isaac meatball and see what else comes up.
I forget, dude can sing too, man. Like,
Yes.
he's an old school showman.
That's right. He really is. I mean, SNL is a tough gig, and even some of the best actors have a difficult time staying in the moment and reading the cue cards. But he was amazing. God, he's so fantastic.
That's the best. That's the best. Well, that's some good adventures there. Jabba the Hutt pillows, which I think you should put in your car. I think you should just be in the passenger seat of your car.
Oh, can you imagine? Oh, the possibilities.
And when you say Millennium Falcon skirt, I am remembering correctly that this is not like cloth with an image of the Falcon. You mean this is a large construction of the Millennium Falcon that one can wear as a skirt, right?
Yes, it's a large foam skirt. It looks pretty, raggedy now, but like a hunk of junk. Sorry. Sorry, it's the Sudafed. But I would like to display it, like you're saying, Ken. Like if I had a mannequin, I would totally display that because it is an important piece of my crafting history.
Yeah. Look, ForceCenter Museum. It's a goal now in life. We'll put it out into the galaxy.
I like it.
Donations at the door if you want to, but you can just kind of come take some photos.
Oh my goodness.
Joseph, did you find anything you want to put in a museum this week?
Oh, look, half of my apartment is a museum. I still haven't put together the Razor Crest because I need to reshape my entire life around it. I'm so happy I have it. I'm so lucky to have it, but I haven't put it together yet because it truly is like, I'm going to have to remodel my work-life flow to find a place to display the Razor Crest. So, there's a lot of that. And that was actually a part of my life adventures. This week, it's been infrastructure week for me for about 2 years, trying to get everything just taken care of. And one of the things that I finally did is back up a bunch of my old photos. For a while there, particularly in the 2000s, mid 2000s, around Revenge of the Sith time, and up until about 2014, I kind of had I know I have an action figure problem. I can't buy anymore, but I'll take pictures of them.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it'll be like, oh, cool. I eventually bought that one, on eBay for $10, or sometimes they're like rare or whatever. And I'm like, why did I just take a photo of this and didn't buy it for $20? But I came across a photo that I entirely forgot about. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. Right when Sarah started dating, Sarah and I started dating, she had already agreed to get her master's degree in London. So long story short, I went and lived with Sarah in London for 3 months, and then we took little quick side trips. And one of them, the trips we took, is to Paris in early 2006, so the height of Revenge of the Sith. And I totally forgot that we had wandered into I saw a toy store in Paris and demanded to go in. And I forgot that Sarah took these pictures of me. And I, at that point in time, I think I had like a big beard and looked very much like an adult. And she's got this photo of me just pining like a child at a wall of Revenge of the Sith action figures.
Oh,
and it's like me in
great.
Paris in 2006 staring at Zet Jukasa action figure. And like, you should have picked him up. 2006 me, you should have picked him up.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great.
Memories.
Yeah.
Memories.
Good memories. My other life adventure is I went to see the Batman, the movie. It's such a fun title because it sounds like, I went to see the Batman. How's he doing? His knees bothering him. He's doing okay. Really, really enjoyed it. It was at Grauman's. It's always a treat to go to Grauman's, especially like on an opening night for a big movie like that. Robert Pattinson, the Batman, showed up, and it was so funny because people were so excited, screaming so hard, and we had seats way in the back, and he was so tiny. And he was very kind, really thanked people, and then he's like, oh yeah, I have some hats. And it was fun to watch the Batman throw hats, and like he's the Batman, but he's not that hat's not making it all the way back here. So that was really great. And just without spoilers, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the Batman. It reminded me very much of Star Wars because a lot of the ideas in it to me kind of line up with some of the values of heroism in Star Wars. So big shout out to the Batman.
Batman. Big shout out to Robert Pattinson coming out with one of those air guns that launches T-shirts to the back of the stage.
Yeah, get him back here next time. Get him back here. So those are my adventures. How about you, Ken?
Oh man, it was a busy week, a trying week on some two fronts, actually. A big technical snafu that I created for ForceCenter, which created a lot of stress, changed a lot of plans. And I had to do what I do often, Joseph and Jennifer, fall to my knees and try to channel that Qui-Gon energy we talk often here. But more, I think my energy was Luke watching R2 and Yoda fight on Dagobah over and just being kind of frustrated and having to find my center through all of that. And then, then obviously the state of the world stuff is still hanging above everything. But every day you could find something about the state of the world that could get you down. And I think we have to find that hope in those dark times and those fearful times. And that's kind of the big lesson in Star Wars. So it was one of those weeks. Busy, didn't have time to stop and think a lot. But at some point, though, I did accidentally stumble onto Rogue One. By accidentally stumble, I mean, I brought up Disney Plus to watch something, and that was queued up. And I was like, let's just continue this and watch the third act of Rogue One while having a sandwich. So there you go. Star Wars does find its way into your life somehow, some way.
And did Rogue One and the sandwich help you?
It did. And that leads into some conversations we're going to have this week and everything. But just, and there's so much to analyze about Rogue One, as we always do, but I always say that third act, man, is sometimes just that playground fun if you want to just focus on that. And I needed about 20 minutes to be like, spaceship goes boom.
It is good stuff for that.
Yeah. Good stuff. So that is all of our Star Wars adventures and life adventures. We love sharing those, so all of you can find the connection to our journeys and yours out there in love and Star Wars. We're going to get to Star Wars news, and this was news from March 2nd. Sad news, but we're going to talk about the history and legacy of Alan Ladd Jr., the studio executive that said yes to Star Wars, passed away, as I said, on March 2nd at the age of 84. Without Laddie, there would be no Star Wars. Those are the words of George Lucas, on the man that famously invested in George Lucas, the filmmaker, and not the movie Star Wars necessarily. Ladd believed in Lucas enough to go to then Fox president Gordon Stolberg to greenlight the Star Wars, I guess we should say, starting the saga that would change so many lives, careers, and give birth to ForceCenter. Exactly what Alan Ladd Jr. was thinking. One day that's going to be ForceCenter. Ladd's involvement as in the Star Wars stories is well documented, but I wanted to start this discussion here talking about the legacy and history around the Laddie, as he was called, to our relationship to his place in the history of this franchise. Jennifer, these behind-the-scenes names enter into our fandom at some point. What was your journey with the story of Alan Ladd Jr.?
I remember, it's one of those things where, again, I don't remember what age I was, but I remember I was fairly young, and I think because my dad was really into movie making and behind the scenes stuff. And so if you watch any of the documentaries or old interviews with George Lucas, he always mentions Alan Ladd Jr. and how important and crucial he was to getting the Star Wars made. So he was always I just kind of knew who he was. And then it wasn't until later on that I really started diving into the making of and understanding how important he was and how there would be no Star Wars really, or like we know it now, without him. So for many, many years, he's been a part of the Star Wars history.
Just a name we're all so familiar with, Joseph. Were you 7 when you first learned of a studio executive?
No, I mean, I don't remember learning of studio executives. Like, I think I must have been aware of them through just kind of cultural osmosis of just like from movies and cartoons. Like, I think my earliest memory is like that kind of cigar chomping stereotype. Yeah. And I remember my dad kind of talking about mean bosses. And I think at some point when I was like 10, it kind of clicked of like, sometimes movies have mean bosses. Like my dad can have a mean boss, and a lot of it was, as I got older, I was interested in the making of with like Star Wars, but I'd be like, that's cool to see the Tauntauns move, or that guy who made Yoda's face kind of looks like him,
Yeah.
But I wasn't that intrigued by like the business and the power and the decisions in the studios and all that. So I only really became aware a little bit more of studio bosses and that when things I love started to get canceled, they're like, who at this BBC place canceled Doctor Who? Like, who's this jerk who's stopping me from watching Twin Peaks? So I think for me, I grew up with a little bit of that sort of like they're the, soulless, uncreative people who crush stuff. And seeing Alan Ladd, I'd heard the name, but seeing him in that Empire of Dreams documentary,
Yes.
and he shattered every stereotype that I had about a studio boss. He was like so calm and soft spoken in that interview, but what he said was like succinct and meaningful and powerful. And the way he just very clearly said, like, I didn't know what Lucas was talking about. I did not understand any of the technical stuff, but I believed in him. That had such an impact on me when I saw Empire of Dreams. And I think we all, any creative person dreams of finding an Alan Ladd who goes, you're clearly creating something new. I don't quite get it, but I get you and I believe in you. The huge importance of that is Alan Ladd to me.
That's so important. And you're right. I think our journeys are very similar here, where I can't remember the first time I heard his name and then connected it with Star Wars. It might not have been until the mid-90s when I myself was studying screenwriting and film production and thinking of moving to Hollywood. And that's when you're reading the magazines, you're reading Premiere, you're reading Cinescape and all this stuff, and you're starting to learn. Right?
Yes.
Right, Jen?
Yes.
So that, I think it was a similar thing where, you're right, Joseph. We do become obsessed with the behind the scenes of Star Wars pretty early on as a just kind of collective fandom. But it's more about, I knew Phil Tippett, Joe Johnston, Dennis Muren. But I didn't know they answered anyone, not even George. I just thought they're always sitting around making a movie. Like, what fun. But you're right. And I'm with you too. That Empire of Dreams is when it really kind of crystallized who this guy was. And I did rewatch Empire of Dreams yesterday and didn't write down any quotes, but just when he was talking about the casting, if like, I'd be lying if I said I thought the cast was great or full confidence. He just is so honest with it, but he's just like, I believe in George. And to hear George, especially, his problems with the, studios and, corporate structure, all those kind of things he's always going on about, to just have nothing but love for Alan Ladd Jr. That carries a lot of weight for me as a Star Wars fan. And you're right. I loved his quiet, confident energy. And I can't even imagine when he's talking about, the budget empire. And then, I stormed out of a meeting. I'm like, how did you storm out? Like, quietly? Did anyone hear you storm out, Laddie?
Yeah, I get that sense of like, he's a little bit older and probably back in the day when he'd had enough with the board at Fox and he stormed out, that there was probably some volume there is the sense that I get. But I just also feel, for me, like, I think Alan Ladd is just this great reminder that sometimes we can see studio heads or, decision makers in this kind of stereotypical way. And he's such a great example of, he took a risk, right? Like this, every time you make a movie, it's gambling with just a bonkers amount of money. And to see the pressure that he went under of like, I love some of those quotes in Empire of Dreams. It's like, there were some tense meetings. Every meeting, all we talked about was Star Wars. It was unpleasant. To just really remember that this would not exist unless he had put himself personally in such risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I want to go next here. Jennifer, any favorite Laddie quotes or decisions or sometimes non-decisions, things they stuck with and said, we're not changing that. Anything related to Star Wars that jumps out to you?
Yeah, I was thinking during the making of A New Hope, the Star Wars, George wanted to shoot an additional scene with Greedo, and he also wasn't happy with the cantina, and he wanted more monsters. So if I remember correctly, I think he was like already $1 million over budget. And he went to Alan Ladd and was like, I need more money. And Alan Ladd was like, well, I can't get you what you want. Let me see what I can do. And I think the board of directors at Fox, because of Alan Ladd Jr., gave George $20,000 extra to go shoot that stuff. And it's because of that Lucas was then able to hire makeup artist Rick Baker, who went on to create the modal nodes, Moma Nadon, Muftak, all those great creatures that we now, I can't imagine not having the cantina without them. And it's because Alan Ladd Jr. believed in George and his vision. And even though they were already over budget and George was like, I need this Greedo scene, I need more monsters, Alan's like, okay, I got it. I'll do it. It's amazing, right? I can't.
Oh, that's great.
It's a special time in movie history because I think of like the old studio heads as we're talking about with chomping on the cigars and how the big five, Louis B. Mayer, MGM, and how they were so controlling
Mm.
over their actors and everyone, right? And then you look at the later years with Alan Ladd Jr. and how he saw George, and he gave George so much freedom, and he really believed in him as an artist, and it's such a stark contrast, I think, to the old Hollywood system.
I think you're right. That's a great information, Jen. But how the Empire Dreams documentary starts is that kind of story of the studio system of the old was crumbling, and suddenly their analytics were telling them, "Hey, kids, youngsters like movies, and there's youngsters making those movies." And for Alan Ladd, who was a younger man himself at the time, making those decisions, I think you're so right. And I love one of the ones I love was I think between Star Wars and Empire, but where George and his management team kind of goes back and says, "Hey, 200,000 for writing, directing, and putting this all together, producing, it's probably a little low." And for Laddie to be like, "Yeah, you're right. You deserve more money." You don't hear that often. You just don't hear you people getting their worth. It's not that easy. And that's something that stood out to me. Anything for you, Justin?
Yeah, there's a quote at the end of the StarWars.com article that is actually from the J.W. Rinsler book that I don't think I had heard this before because I haven't read all those books, but this is from Alan Ladd talking about seeing Star Wars in a theater with humans once it was released, and saying, "I am not very prone to emotions, but when the picture opened and all of a sudden they just started applauding, the tears started rolling out of my eyes. That has never happened to me. Then at the end of the picture, it kept going. It wasn't stopping. And I just never had experienced that kind of a reaction to any movie ever. Finally, when it was over, I had to get up and walk outside because of the tears."
Oh,
It's just so powerful to just be. It's such a story of catharsis, which is it's such an important word to me because we just all need it. And the idea of Alan Ladd being like, I really believed in George Lucas. I thought American Graffiti was beautiful and powerful, and I assumed that the Star Wars thing that would be too. And then I went through hell making it, defending it, and then at the end, when I see that I was right. It is powerful. It did affect people that I get to have this catharsis, this powerful catharsis in the back of a theater, seeing that, I help create something that people love.
I love that because talking about all the things that Star Wars changed. I'm not a student of film history as much as other things. I'll admit, but I can't think of a movie up until then that would have elicited that kind of reaction. I don't know if there's standing ovations for Wizard of Oz. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe someone correct me. But Alan Ladd Jr., of course, his father was an actor and everything. Coming from that old kind of era or understanding the old kind of era, fighting for this new era of cinema, and then sitting down and seeing that reaction again. That's another thing that Star Wars changed is bringing that kind of emotion out of audiences. So it had to be extra special,
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was great.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, a lot of the decisions, the cast, all that kind of stuff. Hey, you know what? Just rewatch Empire Dreams. It's some great letters. And there is, I haven't watched. There is that Alan Ladd Jr. documentary was made a couple years ago, and I have not got my hands on that. So now is maybe the time to check that out here. A final question. This got me thinking about this. Go with me here. As children of pop culture, that's all caps, patent pending. Basically, kids of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. We're the ones raised in this era of movies that we are standing and applauding for. Behind the scenes stories, documentaries. I love documentaries about things I lived through. 1994 documentary. Yes, I know that year. I want to know more about that year. I want to talk about our feelings when some of the people from Star Wars history specifically pass on. Alan Ladd Jr. now, Peter Mayhew, Kenny Baker, Gary Kurtz, Ralph McQuarrie, Carrie Fisher. Now, Carrie Fisher's was a gone too soon type of situation, but it's still kind of that same thing, Jennifer, of these names that are always there. They're in the interviews. They're behind the scenes. We see set photos of them visiting, and suddenly when they're gone, as time is so cruel and takes this wonderful Star Wars thing and keeps on going. What are your reactions to those kind of losses?
It's interesting because in one instance, they don't feel gone because we are watching these documentaries when they're younger, or we're watching the movies and we're seeing them and they're so full, or I'm even seeing like fans sharing their memories, sharing photos when they've gotten a chance to talk with these icons, really. And then at the same time, it's devastating because they do feel like such a part of our lives and they feel like family. And then selfishly, I think about what could have been or how much more, I want to see their art, especially, Carrie Fisher. Like you said, she was taken too soon. So yeah, it's complicated, and it's hard. It's hard because they do feel like family, but
Yeah.
no one has ever really gone. So
No, in a way, and it's hard to get to that point. I know, Joseph. Your thoughts on what it is to lose these names from our childhood as adults?
Yeah, no, I agree with Jennifer. It's complicated and it is sad, and particularly with somebody like Carrie Fisher, where there is almost this selfish isn't quite the right word, but it's the word I'll use, like selfish desire to see like what else would they have created, what other books would she have written, what other performances would she have given, right? So there's that kind of passing. But then there's the people who have lived a long, good life, and of course, I personally wish that we could all live forever. But there is that difference of like you've lived a long life, and now it is natural.
yes.
But I think for me, it's just a lot of the storytelling that Star Wars has always done, but in particular, the fact that the sequel trilogy really is about generational change, right? And it gives us those wonderful little phrases and ideas that capture something that's big and true and universal, like no one's ever really gone. And seeing, Rey's journey to be inspired by the generation that came before, but find a way to move forward herself. I think the passing of some of these legends of Star Wars is I'm helped by Star Wars, that a lot of times you can kind of look to like, well, who is picking up the mantle, and how are they moving the wonderful things that these people did in the past into the future. And with someone like Alan Ladd, just that idea of like, okay, yeah, he took this big risk, who will be the next Alan Ladd who will take that kind of risk? In what little moments in my life could I take that kind of risk? Could I believe in somebody when they, say like, hey, you want to help me with this? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Sounds stupid, but I think you're really smart, so I'll come along with you. Like, how could even I, not being a movie executive, honor what I've really appreciated about the work and the choices of some of these people?
I'm right there with you on this kind of a life well lived, a legacy, not just accomplishments and box office receipts, but just making decisions, taking chances, being part of something. We're all here, three of us always pursue creative endeavors, but no matter what you do, looking back and being able to say, hey, here's the things I did, a life well lived. Just to name Gary Kurtz, like seeing him, being interviewed so many times over the years, even their great YouTube videos, and to know that he's gone now, but this is what he left behind. And it's more than just, again, resumes, just going out there every day and trying to take it all on and create and put yourself out there. But in terms of Star Wars, yeah, I think often for me, there becomes a little bit of that. Well, if they're going, how old am I?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
we are blessed that Star Wars is no longer just this little thing, this little phenomena in a corner of pop culture. It is ongoing. It's still going. And it is growing and changing, and new names are coming. And I think it helps me to kind of be reminded of my place in this too, of talking to younger fans or fans with different perspectives, and the big Star Wars table, making sure everyone gets a seat where these names are now a part of the past, and new names are being put in. That's not lost to me, and it's not lost that it's part of the Star Wars story. Hard to accept. I don't want to go. I don't want to be Force Ghost yet. I don't know if Force Ghost can go to Del Taco and enjoy tacos. There's some things I got to do still. But it does kind of hit you in that way at times,
Look, if I could be a Force spirit and, whisper to people my advice, I'd be happy to have that existence. It's basically a podcast. It's a one-person podcast where Obi-Wan just pops up. It's like, you want to know my thoughts on that, Luke?
Yeah, we all should be Force Ghosts. So, the Force Center podcast will continue. We'll continue. Well, that is our look at Alan Ladd Jr. and his life legacy and what it means to Star Wars fans. Again, passed away at the age of 84 and
Wow.
will never be forgotten in the Star Wars world. Changing gears a little bit here, let's talk numbers. Speaking of cigar chomping studio execs, the Book of Boba Fett is still pulling in numbers. So, kind of the business side of Star Wars. The Wrap and Parrot Analytics released a report that shows the Book of Boba Fett is getting 39.1 times the amount of audience engagement than the average streaming series. Peacemaker close behind at about 36%. But that's a newer show. Book of Boba Fett, already a couple weeks old. And in pop culture nowadays, that might as well be 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So the Book of Boba Fett did have overall fewer viewers than The Mandalorian, but though the finale, as was talked about recently in the news, had higher viewership than the Mando season 2 finale. Yeah, we don't dig into numbers too much here at Force Center. Reason for this is maybe my take more than Joseph and Jennifer's. I'll get your takes on it. I don't want the numbers to detract, like where I'm like, oh, I really like this. Oh, the ratings are low, bummer. Or see, the ratings are high, you dummies. Like I just want to find balance in the numbers. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think when talking about numbers, I think it's super important to say, why are we talking about them? Because is this because we want to analyze how audiences are reacting or engaging with a specific kind of story? Is it because we are concerned that the numbers dictate what kind of stories might be told in the future? Why are we analyzing this is very important to me because, yeah, we know from history, right? When you sit down to watch a movie, somebody can sit down and watch The Iron Giant right now and go, amazing movie. What do you mean it bombed in 1999, right?
Right.
You know, it is the story that lives on, not the engagement numbers.
Yeah. And like I said, I could easily, because obviously the Book of Boba Fett had some conversations around it that were not all positive. Hey, guess all Star Wars, but it's easy to point at the 39% more and just go, haha, see, you're all wrong, and that doesn't necessarily make anyone's negative opinions on Boba Fett wrong. It's just kind of what it is. It's interesting, Jen, right? So
Yeah.
what's your relationship to the numbers?
I'm not surprised. I think that the show has evoked passionate reactions with fans, both good and bad. I think it's a really rewatchable show, in my opinion. Like, I know people criticize the kind of quote unquote book aspect of it, right? Where each episode kind of stands alone in some sense. But I think that actually makes it really fun to go back and be like, oh, I want to watch, the Chrysanthemum's introduction, or I want to see, a little bit more about, the mods or whatever it is. And I think that each episode is packed with details, Easter eggs, character development, cameos that people are kind of going back to it and wanting to explore it further and how it ties into the bigger Star Wars story. I'm not surprised. People are very passionate about the show. And I like that,
Passion.
Better that, right? Than some people going,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Passion can be good, right, Joseph?
Oh, absolutely. I think what's huge about this too is, like, I realized I was just kind of reading this and going like, I know this isn't necessary number of views. This is some audience engagement number. It's like, hey, wait, what is this number?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean? So if you want to do a deep dive, you can Google Parrot Analytics. This is their definition that I found on their website of what this is. By measuring demand for content and talent, we are quantifying the attention economy. Our system captures how much attention, engagement, desire, and viewership is expressed by consumers for TV shows and talent all around the world. And then I found a list of the kind of numbers that they're pulling. They're pulling downloads and stream numbers. That's a part of this. But they're also pulling photo sharing sites, fan and critic rating sites, social media, social video sites, wikis and informational sites, blogging sites, microblogging sites. So this number is Boba Fett's clout score. It isn't just, the rewatching. And I think that's fascinating because this has always been a big part of Star Wars, is that we certainly do watch the show and engage with the show, and the art and the story is where it all begins. But even when some fans maybe don't like something or have a hard time with something or vocally criticize a part of it, we still engage, right? I
Mhm.
think this number is jokes on Twitter about Book of Boba Fett. It
Yeah.
is, screen captures. It is us, doing podcasts. It is people posting pictures of toys that they are going to buy. It's engaging with it. So that makes a ton of sense to me that any Star Wars show is always going to have a high level of engagement because it's part of why we like Star Wars. We enjoy the story and then we kind of take it off the screen and in the fandom kind of makes it its own thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
speaking of that passion that Jennifer was talking about, it's always going to be there. It's always
Yeah.
going to be there. Yeah, I love that. There, this also leads to my philosophy of if I don't like something, I don't engage with my enemy, so that no one can hear from my enemy. Sorry. I want to get into specifically to the ratings to viewers, which kind of comes out of this. But I love that information you just put out there, Joseph. That really kind of even puts more perspective of what we're talking about here. But in some of the articles, and I was looking at the fine folks at Star Wars Newsnet who kind of took the Wrap and Parrot Analytics story and kind of made it accessible because I don't have a subscription to the Wrap or Parrot Analytics. Mando 2, season 2, kind of still being overall, higher in terms of viewership despite that finale. What do you guys make of that? And to lead a little bit, I kind of think the Mando was new and has become old in a good way already, where first I was like, who's this new Mando guy? Oh, that's my favorite. He shows up in chapter 5 of Book of Boba Fett and people are like, oh, see, I'm invested in this character,
Mm.
which could be, I get that as terms of critique of the character, the writing of Boba Fett, but I'm just saying people are still familiar already with this character that's only 2 years old, Jen, including Grogu. So that shows that there's a lot of love for new things.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mando season 2 was higher, right?
Overall, the ratings were higher. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's Baby Yoda. That's I no, but I really do think that there were a lot more I don't know, casual fans that I saw in my specifically Facebook, in my
Mhm.
Facebook feed. I have a lot of family, a lot of friends who are not Star Wars people, right?
Right.
They don't go and see everything Star Wars. They don't know everything about Star Wars, but they got into The Mandalorian. It was very accessible. And I think some people kind of did not get as into the Book of Boba Fett because maybe they didn't really understand. I mean, I thought it was very accessible, but um, not everyone got it. So I think that's part of it. Yeah, and I mean, who knows? Maybe the second season, if there is a second season of the Book of Boba Fett, there will be higher
Mhm.
viewership. I also feel like with the Book of Boba Fett, some people kind of got turned off by it and just were not as invested
Right.
in the finale. They kind of felt like they knew where it was going. Whereas with The Mandalorian, everyone was like, what's going to happen? Who's going to show up? Right.
Yeah.
So just different stories, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I agree with that there, and I think Book of Boba Fett. I always use the description was very stubborn in its style, and I loved its style. But if it
Hmm.
stuck with it, and if you didn't like it, yeah, you might have had some issues. So again, the finale. I think there's a I got to at least figure out how this turns out. But Joseph, you know what I mean when I'm talking about Din Djarin was new, and now he's just familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this has been a fascinating journey because I think Jennifer is entirely right. I think that first season of The Mandalorian, I think that can be your first Star Wars, and you have no bumps, right? You just
Yeah.
Right.
he's a bounty hunter. He's this rough guy who's trying to find money in Beskar for the orphan Mandalorians. Like, great, under the series you get it, but then he meets this kid, and it becomes as many friends that I like and respect who are not big on Star Wars call it the Baby Yoda show, right? And they got
Right.
invested in the first season. The first season hooked people. And I think the second season of Mandalorian, all those people were still watching the Baby Yoda show and really invested in what happened to him. But then you got that extra buzz of engagement from, oh, wow, it's Boba Fett. Oh, it's Ahsoka. Oh, now it's Luke Skywalker. This extra buzz of engagement. And then the other thing that I think we should never, ever forget is time does matter. Mando season 2 also came out in some of the roughest times of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
So I think that makes a difference as well.
Absolutely. I think it does. You mentioned it up top, Joseph. Sometimes these numbers, they're important to look at. They're not the be all end all of discussion. They definitely, I mean, the amount of movies and TV shows in history that you go back and we're like, they were almost canceled, or this movie was run out of the theaters. It's now beloved. I mean, that happens time and time again. Stories do live on. I think you're correct to point that out, Joseph. But numbers also could indicate things changes. I've never thought there was going to be a second season of Book of Boba Fett. I never thought it was sold as that. I thought it was just this thing that they were going to do, this limited series, whether or not they said that specifically or not. But now looking at his numbers, I'm thinking, well, is there still a story to tell? Is that story in Mando 3? Is it its own thing? Jen, do you have any thoughts, hopes, or desires with this high engagement for any Book of Boba Fett season 2? Or maybe just like, I'm good, give me one, and I'm done.
Right. Yeah, I never thought there was going to be a second season either. But, and I'm never good at creating plot ideas. I'm terrible at that. But I'll tell you what I would love to see is I'd love to see them really dive into this cast of characters that they've given us, right? Let's learn more about the mods. Let's learn more about their backstory. Let's learn more about Fennec Shand. Let's see more of Chris Anton. Let Garza Fwip be alive. Like, I want to see the romance between the mayor's major domo and Belly. Why not? Really diving into the characters for me would be really exciting. But in terms of plot, I have no idea where they would go with it.
You've sold me on the sitcom spinoff, Pelly Loves Major Domo.
Oh God, make it so, someone please.
That's a great. You got the wacky sidekicks and the Pitroids. You got the ex-boyfriend Jawa coming around, causing. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, old furry hands getting involved. Yeah,
maybe they'll make can you imagine if they made a holiday special? What if they did just a crazy holiday special with Pelly and her ex-boyfriend Jawa? I mean, this is gold. And you know who would do it? Jon Favreau would totally do it.
Favreau is obsessed with the holiday special. He hasn't come out and directly admitted that, but I think it's there. I think it's
yes.
there.
Yeah. Sorry. I got a little too excited.
No.
Not at all.
Oh, could you imagine? Amy Sedaris and Pelimoto leading us through a new holiday special, a live action one. We got the great Lego one, but a live action one. I'm
I think it's there. I think it's a good possibility.
Joseph, your thoughts on these numbers? Because we know numbers, Make Solo 2 campaign, it comes out of the desire for a solo movie, despite bad box office numbers that derailed it, right? All those conversations we got. Numbers do matter on a business level. High engagement numbers. What do you think about Book of Boba Fett Season 2?
Yeah, I think final thought on the numbers is just that a reminder that we are in a brand new era. And I think even streaming services don't quite know what they want other than as many subscribers as possible, right? Because I think that's partially we're seeing numbers like this because maybe engagement is what they want. They just want as many subscribers as possible. If we all subscribed and none of us ever watched Book of Boba Fett, but Book of Boba Fett made us subscribe, they wouldn't care because it's not advertising based, right? But they might care about this engagement because that's showing, okay, this is the water cooler conversation across the entire internet. So people feel like they need to see this to be part of the conversation. That might be the metric that matters. Just a reminder that we're still in early days of what metrics matter. For a season 2 of Boba Fett, there would be a ton I'd be excited about. The main thing for me is I don't know if this would be wrapped up into larger storytelling of the Mandoverse, but I feel like for me, the main thing of Boba Fett that is still unexplored is exactly how he feels about his Mandalorian past and if he could be convinced that Mandalore and the ideas of Mandalore is something that he should care about. So I'm really intrigued by that in his character. I'm also intrigued by, they kind of left it off as a second season as like, okay, we don't want destructive things like drugs, but I'll still help run the town, run the planet, and take a little bit of money to do that. So there's this interest to me then of like Boba Fett being like, okay, I thought I wanted to be the leader, but what does that mean? So is there kind of a civil war on Tatooine? Is Tatooine, offered to join the New Republic, and some people want that and other people don't? Is Tatooine targeted by early First Order? Like, I think there could be some story of how does Boba Fett handle it and hold it all together, along with his whole great cast of characters, because we've met so many players on Tatooine now. It'd be really fascinating.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think that's one of the things Book of Boba Fett did well for me is put a bunch of new characters and old into the story. And if this Mandoverse being pretty much a real thing at this point, it seems, if they launched here, how can they fit into the bigger story? I think you're right with some of the Mandalorian stuff. But then, this romantic comedy sitcom and then an office place Jabba's Palace, Boba Fett Palace comedy with the big things you're talking about there. There we go.
Boba Veep right there. Yeah.
Boba
Boba
Veep.
Veep. Oh my
That'd be great.
gosh.
That'd be
Hilarious.
great. That is our look at the first half of Star Wars news. I'm still getting used to the new format. I almost wrapped up the news segment. No, we're not done. We got a whole show. We're going to take a quick break, another story, and we're going to look ahead to Star Wars past. But before we do that, Joseph, we have an audiobook we'd like to recommend to all our listeners.
That's right. We are recommending the next High Republic adventure, Mission to Disaster by Justina Ireland.
To download your free audiobook today, or that one, Mission to Disaster, go to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. All right, quick break. We'll be back here on ForceCenter. Welcome back to ForceCenter, one of the big shows, one of the main shows, one of the superstar stories in our fleet. We're going to keep looking at the news here, and it was one of the slower weeks, which is always deceptive because there could always be something to discuss. There's always things going on, but this one popped up, and I got to admit, I tried to do some digging, try to get a little more information, and it just is one of those things that was there, and I wanted to discuss it here. So, Joseph, Jennifer, excuse me if it's kind of vague. If you got, Joseph, you did great research in that number of stories. Maybe you got some here. Is Rogue Squadron still a go? Question mark, question mark, question mark. There is a story I was reading on inverse.com, but there's a link to a PDF of a schedule. All right, now here's the thing. I could make a PDF of the schedule right now and say, look what I got. I was roaming around Bob Iger's old office trying to find information on why he canceled Twin Peaks for Joseph, and found a schedule. So I don't know. And this might be a lesson on not overreacting to unconfirmed news, or maybe, like I said, just a typo somewhere deep within Disney. Rogue Squadron is still showing as set to be released in December of 2023. As we know, there was an abundance of rumors, exclusive stories, and hot takes on Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron film being, pick one, delayed, canceled, or maybe now not affected at all. So many news sites were reporting the story. As I said, it's an updated release schedule dated February 25th. We all know dates can't be changed ever. Shows Rogue Squadron still set for 12/22/2023. Joseph, Jennifer, what is our gut reaction to this news? Jenner, you did not get to discuss Rogue Squadron and all the drama with us too much yet. So take me through your gut reaction to this.
I am so confused because I remember seeing the video announcement, fantastic video announcement with Patty Jenkins, right? Remember that? Where she talked about her father, her dad was a fighter pilot. Great. On board. Then I think it was, I don't even know how long ago, maybe a few months ago, I saw people on Twitter saying it's canceled. It's, she's no longer working on the film. And it's one of those things when you see these types of headlines and I'm like, are they copying and pasting it from somewhere? Is this some random blog? Is this from the Hollywood Reporter? So then I went on last night. I was looking at StarWars.com. I was like, have they shared anything about it being delayed or whatever? Nothing there. Yeah. So where did this originate from? That it was delayed? Was it who said it first?
We covered the story, and I can't remember. I mean, it was all over the place, but it did get to official sites, right, Joseph?
Yeah, I think it had one of the trades was involved, and that's usually kind of our metric of sometimes we'll discuss something fun if it just emerged from wherever, but we often, when it's one of the trades that have existed forever, those are, journalists doing a beat,
Then that's different. Yeah, then that gives me, okay, then there might have been, and not to speculate, but there might have been some rumblings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I'm happy that it's still a go.
Are you excited for this movie? I think that's maybe in all of our when you were on hiatus, we didn't get a chance to ask you. Are you excited for the concept of this film?
You know what? No, I mean, it's not like a thing that I'm into, right? Like I remember, I read, what was it? Those X-Wing books. Remember years ago? Oh, how long ago was that? Oh gosh. Anyways, so it's not my bag, right? I'm a creatures kind of gal. But that video announcement with Patty Jenkins, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I am on board because of her passion, her excitement over telling the story. She is going to put the type of heart she's doing. I mean, she's a busy woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's doing this because she needs to tell this story. And that, to me, I'm like, it's going to be good. She's a fantastic director and she believes in this. I'm on board. So because of that, so that's why I'm like, if she's not attached to it, I'm not going to be as excited, to be honest.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that little teaser was so well done and so personal. And I remember talking about just having a big reaction to that Investor Day kind of, that was right. It was Investor Day, right? Right?
Yeah.
I remember. It's so confusing. The time, again, Book of Boba Fett 3 years ago was released.
Oh my
So
god!
I can't deny that I was really moved by that piece, really excited, and I think I'd still be excited for this, despite some of the rumblings. And Joseph, you're right to point out, I think that's lost. Trades versus movie news websites.
Big
That's
difference.
a big line. That's one of the reasons we discussed it.
Yeah, and it's not like sometimes the movie news sites aren't great and haven't really broken something, but I think it's just exactly what Jennifer is saying. It's like something gets said and you have to click through it, and then sometimes you'll dig and get back to it, and just be like, this person said, you know, and they're not citing sources, they don't have a history, you know, and it's those ones where I think we gotta take a step back and go, where is this sourced from?
Where's the source from, indeed? But Joseph, your gut reaction to this idea, Rogue Squadron still flying. What do you think?
Every time I hear a bit of Rogue Squadron news, I just want to be Qui-Gon waiting for the laser gate to open or not.
Qui-Gon,
I really think that, to me, I think that some of the reports of like, ooh, is it paused? Is it delayed? Is Patty Jenkins, realizing I'm too busy and I want to do this one first or that one first? Is Lucasfilm love the project but not sure about this script? Like, I think all of those kinds of discussions, they when they get reported, we just we go at them like piranhas with our opinions, right? About all sorts of different stuff. I think that's just a totally normal part of the process. Patty Jenkins is a filmmaker with a vision. Lucasfilm is a company that also has a vision of like, we want to celebrate artists and writers and creators, but we also have these ideas about Star Wars where like, let's play with this, go crazy, make the mod spikes too colorful and everybody will get mad. We don't care. We'll support you, Robert Rodriguez. Versus here are like some of the real underpinnings that we really feel strongly about. So I think the discussion is natural. I believe it might have got paused. I believe it might be raring up again. And it's one of these things that I'm just waiting for official news before I have any strong opinion or reaction. My strongest opinion and reaction is I want a big win for Star Wars when it returns to the big screen. That's the thing I care about the most.
I'm with you. Right, Jen? We're just rooting for a Star Wars win.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. My gut reaction to this is exhaustion in a way. I'll be honest. Look, there was a point in all of this, even maybe before ForceCenter, the earliest of ForceCenter 2, where it's like, let's roll up our sleeves and discuss what might be wrong with the film or what's going on. I love some good office place gossip. Oh, that's fun. And when all that got weaponized, it kind of, it just would chip away at my joy. And that's why I've distanced myself even more and don't like scoop culture and all those kind of things. But then I hear this and I saw this, why I want to discuss it. I was like, my gut reaction is, okay, let's have some fun then. If it's on and they figured out all those rumors, script issues or whatever might have emerged. And if they feel they're going to take a shot with this and they're still going to take a shot with this, or maybe they always were. And all of this kerfluffle was just a kerfluffle. I'm game because, Joseph, Star Wars, we want it to win.
Yeah. Sometimes a PDF is just an unupdated PDF, right? I mean, like, who knows? Who knows what this bit of news could mean? It could mean that, we're supposed to type in on and out Star Wars film, but we didn't. Who knows? Like, it could be nothing. I think the biggest thing that I'm hoping for, Ken, is by like spring or summer, maybe on May the 4th, maybe at Star Wars Celebration, maybe San Diego Comic-Con, if it rolls on as normal. I would love some announcement about Rogue Squadron or another movie that's going to going to hit either in 2023 or if it's bumped back to 2024. I would just love that announcement. I think that would be great for the fandom. I think that'd be great for Lucasfilm to have that. Like, here's what's coming next. Hooray.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, Jen, you with him on that one there?
Yeah, I mean, could they possibly? Well, it means that they would have have shot something if they're going to show anything. I mean, I guess they could always show concept art. They could always show costumes, whatever, for Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, I mean, but if it's going to come out by December of next year, like they got to have like this could be a hey, here Patty Jenkins walks out and here's the 4 stars who walk out on stage, and one of them's in an in a flight suit. That's all you need, right? Like some of those Marvel announcements is just like, here's Natalie Portman with a hammer, and it's the best thing ever, right? Like that's the way you announce Thor, Natalie Portman with a hammer.
Yeah, they don't need to show anything. Just bring out the stars.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
and then we find out that it is set post Rise of Skywalker, and here's General Poe Dameron holding a space meatball, and he's work.
Oh my God.
We're always going to cover these big stories around these parts, but Jen, I want to catch up with you specifically about how we as fans find balance among these stories and the pop culture news cycle. How do you center your joy? And Joseph kind of touched on something there of just like this. Yeah, this Pete in accounting could have done a typo wrong, and this is, and I don't want to overreact to this. I don't want to underreact. I just want to, as a Star Wars fan, have a win, have joy. How do you find the balance here, especially being part of the Star Wars punditry world over the last few years?
I mean, it's so tricky, right? Like, it's much more exciting for people to speculate that something's wrong, trouble's a brewing, than to say, well, they're just looking at locations right now and they're having trouble finding where they're going to set up shop. That's not exciting. And if it's just more, there's more conflict, right? It's more like a movie. Where's the conflict? Oh, the conflict is that they're going to fire Patty Jenkins,
Yeah.
It's tough. And I remember there was a time where I really did used to kind of like allow my emotions to be controlled by the news cycle, the Star Wars news cycle, and it's not a good place to be. So I'm just going to ride that wave. Even though I'm a terrible surfer, I'm going to ride that wave.
Someone who once crashed on a boogie board and that ended my career in the ocean growing up on the beach. I agree with you there. Yeah, it's that news cycle. I even was still very exhausted during the Boba Fett news cycle of Star Wars lives or dies by 1 a.m. Pacific time every, Tuesday, Wednesday of the week. Like this is the one. We're done. And then next week it happens again. And I think that over the years with the news cycle, that's why I'm more just like, sit back and hopefully Kathleen Kennedy comes out on a stage and says something. And even then, Rangers of the New Republic, we're not going to see that. That's not apparently a thing anymore. Things can change. I know they can change. I want them to change. I want them to make the right decisions, even if that means going back. But I think as time goes on, yes, I had that Qui-Gon energy we keep talking about. Just drop to my knees, close my eyes, and wait for the Star Wars doors to open.
Yeah. And to give some credit to old Ben Kenobi, I'll go back to the first Star Wars film. Like a lot of this is, Luke Skywalker getting mad in the canteen of like, we don't have to sit here and listen to this. Obi-Wan just gently putting the hand on the shoulder of like, you might even have a point, but let's not lose our heads about it.
So true. So true. Well, there you go. That is a look at the Star Wars news headlines of the past week. I can't wait to see what we talk about next week as we race towards a big Star Wars news cycle. We got some Andor and Kenobi Twitter handles are being made out there. Their tweets are protected. We're getting closer to Star Wars Day celebration. Oh, so much cool things coming our way. As we debuted last time out, we're going to close the show with our Star Wars history in Star Wars history. This is our chance to look ahead at Star Wars past, meaning in the next week. I love picking out a date in Star Wars history to see our relationship to the events on that date, to the history of Star Wars. And we have this one today, California, on March 10th, 2005, during an episode of the hit TV show The OC. Theme song by Phantom Planet with Jason Schwartzman on drums. The full trailer for Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, was released. And then online for hyperspace subscribers on StarWars.com. I was not one. So where were you watching the OC for this first question? And what are our memories of seeing this full trailer for Revenge of the Sith, Jennifer?
I used to watch the OC.
Yeah, you did.
I did. I think I even lived in the OC at that point. I don't
Right.
remember.
Wow.
Yeah, a little meta. And I don't know if I saw this trailer. I may have, but I watched it last night, and I have to say they gave away the whole movie.
They really did.
I mean, at first, like I got chills. Like the first minute, I'm like, yeah, all right, we're getting back into it. And then it just keeps going and going. And it's like the whole plot is just spoiled. And I thought, well, it's probably good that they only give us concept art or like just, a title card on the screen nowadays for these teasers, because I mean, like fans back in the day must have lost their minds. Like, I don't remember losing my mind and freeze framing things. And I mean, it's all right there, all in the trailer. It's like 3 minutes long.
Yeah. I remember the Phantom Menace trailer on a VHS copy at home. Me and my roommates did, like freeze frame and that little the little squiggly lines, kind of the broken image. We're like, oh my gosh, it's Jabba, and there's another hut behind them. Oh my gosh. I do remember that. We just didn't have a podcast. That's fascinating. And the whole thing about the reveal. Yes, we're in a different era of spoilers in this discussion, and I would just love title card. That's it, right?
Yeah.
But I remember my reaction specifically to this trailer, Jen, was, ooh, lava planet. I wonder how that fits into the story, right? And I approached it from that angle back in the day, where now I don't. Now I'd be like, I don't want to know there's a lava planet. Let me figure that out. I don't know. You could track the history of how that changed in me, but that was my reaction in 2005 of excitement. Oh, I want to see how this fits in. But you're right. It gives away a lot.
Yeah, the Mace going to arrest Palpatine. That when I rewatched that, I was like, "Oh wow!" It didn't bother me back then, but now it's like I wouldn't want to know that.
Right.
That's a different. I need some therapist to come in and help me with this. I don't know, Joseph, Jennifer. Why do I hate that information now? Where back then I celebrated. I don't know.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, long conversation that one.
Yeah, it is. Joseph, I know you were probably in Minnesota watching the OC going, I wonder if I'll ever move to that great state. Oh, look, Star Wars.
This was an active time for me. I was not watching the OC because my television was not hooked up to any cable and barely got any channels. Actually, I'm pretty sure I know exactly where I was on March 10th, 2005. That was 21 days before my first date with my now wife, Sarah. So there's a pivotal time in my life. I believe I would have been on stage at the Minnesota History Theater doing a very weird musical called Fireball, The Great Hinckley Fire. There was a firestorm in Minnesota history where the fire kind of merged with wind and became a fire cyclone.
Oh my gosh.
And I had the comedic role in this musical. It was a weird show, but a fun one. And I had been a subscriber to Hyperspace for the couple of years before. I really remember that and was really happy to be that. And I can't remember if my subscription had run out. But I do remember seeing this trailer because I remember specifically having conversations with friends who were of our generation, grew up with the original trilogy, soured on the prequels, didn't like some of the cute stuff, all that. And then I remember in particular having the same conversation with a couple people who were like, I didn't really like Phantom Menace, really didn't like Attack the Clones. They got me.
Yeah.
Because this connects to the original trilogy. And I remember us like yelling at each other, you were the chosen one. Like, all right, I'm back. I got to see this. And I remember the conversation not being about, they told us too many details. I remember the question that isn't quite answered in the trailer is still being like, why did Anakin make the choice? Like we see that he makes the choice in the trailer. To give in to the dark side, but that exact why isn't quite in there. And I remember that was the debate.
Yeah, and you're very right on that. I think we kind of knew the ending, right?
Yeah, right.
No hope for Anakin. No, again, we did. Some people didn't know. We're like, I wonder if it's going to turn. Yeah, and I'm with you too, Joseph. There was a little bit of that, like, you know what? I'm still here. I'm still going to this party. And that was kind of the energy back then. It is a great trailer, though, despite what it gives away. The music, which speaks to one of my favorite things about Revenge of the Sith, of course, is John Williams' music taking some big swings. I think the trailer gets that ominous vibe, the beats, the music, the rhythm, everything about it. It's a solid trailer. And then Lava Planet, so excited for that.
Yeah.
So much exciting lava.
Exciting love indeed. And I didn't watch the OC. I was at the time was a big fan of Phantom Planet as a band, and
Hmm.
was kind of one of those like, I'm so happy that they got that theme song, but man, everyone hates them and they're a great band. And that was the energy I had there. So Uh, 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 so that is our look back. We always will do deeper dives on some of these bigger stories there, but this was an important week for Star Wars history. On March 10th, 2005, Revenge of the Sith was getting ready to come our way. Well, there you go. We are done today. A lot of fun, a lot of things to look at, and also the importance of looking back on the legacy of Alan Ladd Jr. We can be found on a lot of places on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod. We're on Instagram and YouTube as well. Our Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. You can find the podcast on Acast, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and a lot more spots. Just search and find us there. Merch is available on tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And you can support us directly on patreon.com/ForceCenter. From there, you can get into our Discord where you can join a conversation with Star Wars fans who have fun overreacting, have fun underreacting, but always find the joy of balance there. All right. So, as always, we want to let you know where you can find us individually. You can find me at Cat Napzok. Go to my website, catnapzok.com. For charity funds, there's a couple things going on. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the world. We've still got the situation, which is the worst word to use. I should not a situation, Ukraine. It's just an absolute crisis. And the Ukraine Crisis Relief Fund at www.globalgiving.org /project/Ukraine Crisis Relief Fund. Just Google search that one. There is a good spot there that recommended by ForceCenter listener Mike Fink. That's the place he's putting his energy there, and I am as well. And we want to highlight too the Amidala initiative that's going out there. A lot of Star Wars podcasts working together started a GoFundMe to support Equality Texas and the fighting for rights and equality, fair treatment for transgendered children and their families, and all the stuff going on in Texas. Go to their Twitter page for more information. Joseph, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw. You can check out all my other comedy adventures on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. As we're recording, I see that there's some breaking news about tickets being released for Star Wars Celebration. So there's a lot of Star Wars Celebration. There's a cool poster. So there'll be lots of stuff for us to talk about. This happens to us. We record on Monday, and sometimes news breaks. But I wanted to let listeners know that I saw it. I saw it.
Yes.
And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it more. For the idea that I would like to highlight, so many wonderful things that Ken listed. I want to continue to promote the organization Vote Forward. This is an organization where you write letters trying to encourage people to vote. You just share a personal reason why you vote and encourage people to use the power that they have to support the ideas and the people that they believe in. If you're interested in writing some letters, they got some great numbers. Speaking of numbers, this organization really does a ton of numbers to show how much this works to incentivize people not to vote in any particular way, but just to vote, to get out there and use their voice, use their power. Something I believe in a lot. And if you're interested in writing some letters like I am, you can go to their website at votefwd.org.
Wonderful stuff as always there. Voting matters, my friends. Voting matters. Do it for Padme. Jennifer, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Jennifer Landa. My TikTok is at Jennifer Landa 1138. I won't even get into how I could have forgotten that one. Discussion. It's important. Anyways, today I am spotlighting Equality Texas and the Equality Texas Foundation, which are actually two nonprofit organizations in Texas that offer different services, but they work together to achieve the same mission, and that is to eliminate discrimination targeting the LGBTQ plus community, and they do this through education and community organizing. And the great thing is that they are local organizations in Texas, which is where trans rights are being threatened right now. So the work that they do is extremely critical. And their website is www.equalitytexas.org.
Wonderful stuff, as always. Jen, 2 weeks in, so good to have your voice back on here, the Force Center airwaves. And we are so happy to see everyone out there shares our joy as well. So thanks again for coming back. The journey, we just needed to wait,
Thank you so much for having me. Yup, nub.
Yub nub to you.
Indeed. All right, that is this week. So for the Mandoverse, the memory of Alan Ladd Jr., and Rogue Squadron, we'll see you soon? Question mark. This has been Force Center.